Tonight, 3 archived stories. The storm lasted 3 days. Not the dramatic kind with thunder and flying debris, just steady, relentless snowfall. Thick, heavy, endless. By the time it stopped, entire streets had disappeared. Houses looked buried instead of built. Cars were only shapes beneath white mounds. That's when the call came in. A neighbor hadn't seen the Halverson family since before the storm. Their lights had been on the first night. After that, nothing. No smoke from the chimney, no tracks in the snow, no movement behind the curtains. Rescue crews assumed a power failure, maybe a collapsed roof, maybe carbon monoxide. They dug a path to the front door. The house was locked from the inside. When they forced the door open, warm air drifted out. Not freezing, not even cold. Warm. The heating system was still running. Lights were on. The kitchen glowed softly, like someone had just stepped away. They followed the smell first. Food. Fresh. Hot. The family was seated at the dining table. Mother, father, daughter. All upright. All facing forward. Their skin was pale and stiff. Frost traced their eyelashes. Their fingers were rigid around forks and spoons. They were frozen solid, eyes open, staring at nothing. Steam rose from the plates in front of them, thick curls of warmth drifting upward, untouched. 4 plates, 4 glasses of water, 4 neatly folded napkins, but only 3 bodies. The responders stood in silence. One of them touched a plate, still hot. Another checked the thermostat, 72 degrees, comfortable, normal. There was no ice on the windows, no burst pipes, no visible source of extreme cold. Yet the family had frozen where they sat, not slumped, not collapsed, seated, as if waiting. There were no signs of struggle, no overturned chairs, no broken glass. The table was set carefully, symmetrically. The 4th plate was positioned at the head of the table. The father's seat was slightly turned toward it, like he had been listening. In the living room, the television was on, muted. A fireplace video loop flickered on the screen. Artificial flames, soft light, illusion of warmth. Upstairs, the bedrooms were untouched. Beds made, windows closed. No frost anywhere except on the bodies downstairs. And beneath the table, the floor under the 4th chair was rimmed with thin frost, a faint circle, perfectly round, as if something cold had been sitting there long enough to leave a mark. Investigators tried to explain it. Flash freezing, chemical leak, rare environmental reaction. None of it fit. You can't freeze 3 people solid in a heated room while soup still steams in their bowls. You can't leave one untouched plate warm while the rest of the room remains comfortable. And you can't explain why the father's final expression looked less like fear and more like recognition. Neighbors were interviewed. One woman said she saw light flickering in the Halverson house on the 2nd night of the storm, not from the windows, from outside, like someone holding a lantern near the dining room glass. She assumed it was a rescue worker checking on homes.
No rescue teams were deployed that night. Another neighbor said he heard something around midnight. Not a scream, not a crash, just the faint scrape of a chair moving across hardwood, and what sounded like someone politely clearing their throat. Security footage from a nearby house showed nothing unusual. Snow falling, windless silence, except for one detail. At 11:58 p.m., the Halversons' front porch light turned on. At 11:59, it turned off. At midnight, the dining room curtains shifted slightly, from the inside. The coroner ruled the cause of death as hypothermia, officially. Unofficially, he told the sheriff he'd never seen anything like it. The ice in their lungs wasn't gradual, it was immediate, as if the air they inhaled had turned to winter the moment it touched them. The house was cleaned, the table removed, floor replaced. New family moved in by spring. They repainted the dining room, changed the layout, moved the table against a different wall. Only 3 chairs now. The first winter passed quietly. No storms like that one. No disappearances until late January, during a smaller snow. The new owners hosted dinner for friends. 3 adults, 1 child. 4 plates set on the table. Mid-meal, the child looked toward the empty space at the head of the table. "Who's that?" she asked. There was no one there. The adults laughed. Kids imagined things. Later that night, when they cleared the dishes, they found something odd. A 4th plate in the sink, still warm. None of them remembered washing it. The next snowfall was heavier, not historic, just steady, relentless. The heating system worked fine, thermostat steady at 72. The family sat down for dinner. 3 plates, 3 glasses, 3 chairs. They ate quickly, quietly. No one mentioned the cold pooling under the table. At 11:59 p.m., the porch light flickered on. No one touched the switch. The daughter stared at the empty space at the head of the table. Her breath fogged faintly, only hers. "Can we set another plate?" she whispered. Her mother frowned. "For who?" The child didn't answer. She was listening. Some storms don't bring wind. Some winters don't knock on the door. Sometimes they sit down politely, wait to be served. And if there's an empty seat at the table, they take it. Every time.
They returned in March, right on time. That's what made it worse. After the longest winter in years, after the snow finally began to collapse into gray slush and the streets reappeared, people were waiting for something normal, for something that meant the cold had lost. The birds came back in flocks, black against a pale sky, hundreds of them lining power lines, rooftops, bare trees, just like every spring. At first, no one noticed anything strange, until the singing started, at night. Not at dawn, not at sunset, not during the warm, bright hours when windows were open and children played outside. Only after midnight, only when the houses were dark. It wasn't loud, just enough to carry through thin walls, soft warbling at first, layered, almost beautiful, but wrong. Because birds don't sing at 2:13 a.m. They don't synchronize like that, and they don't all stop at the exact same second. The first reports came from people who couldn't sleep, posts online, neighborhood apps. Anyone else hearing birds right now? Yes, same. They've been going for an hour. Then one message stood out. "They're not in the trees, they're on my roof." Security footage started appearing. Doorbell cameras, backyard motion sensors. The birds weren't flying at night. They were perched on gutters, on fences, on windowsills, facing inward. Every video showed the same thing. Rows of birds, still, heads tilted slightly, watching. One homeowner zoomed in on the footage. The bird on his windowsill didn't blink, didn't ruffle its feathers, didn't shift its weight. For 6 hours, until sunrise. Then it flew away. The singing changed after that, subtle at first. Instead of layered melodies, there were patterns, short bursts, pauses, repeating tones, like fragments, like practice. Then someone heard their own voice. A woman in Ohio recorded the sound outside her bedroom window. At 3:07 a.m., beneath the soft trilling,
Something cut through, a whisper, faint, distorted, her name. Not shouted, not sung, spoken. She posted the clip. People told her it was audio pareidolia, wind through branches, imagination, until others heard it too. Not her name, theirs. The birds began to gather closer, not just in trees, on porches, on railings, pressing against screens, looking inside. Children noticed first. "They're waiting," one boy said. "For what?" his father asked. "For us to talk." The birds only sang when houses were quiet, when televisions were off, when conversations stopped, as if they needed silence to hear something or to be heard. One night, the power flickered across 3 counties. No storm, no explanation, just a brief outage. When the lights went dark, the singing stopped completely. The silence felt heavy. Then, one by one, voices began, from outside, soft, layered, overlapping, human. "Are you awake? Let us in. It's cold." They weren't perfect imitations. The pitch was wrong, the rhythm delayed by a fraction of a second, like a recording played through broken speakers. A man stepped onto his porch during one of the nights. Neighbors later said they saw him standing still, surrounded by birds lining his railing. He was talking softly, responding, nodding, as if in conversation. The next morning, his front door was open, the house empty, no signs of struggle. Bird droppings covered the porch. Perfectly circular pattern around where he had stood. Authorities suggested mass hysteria, seasonal stress, sleep deprivation, but wildlife experts were unsettled. Migration patterns were normal, species were normal, physiology was normal, except for one detail. The birds weren't eating. Feeders remained full, seeds untouched, yet they didn't appear weak. They just watched. The recordings grew clearer. You could hear phrases now, fragmented, half-formed, repeated over and over until they sharpened. "Open the window. We remember you. Say something." One viral clip showed a flock covering the side of a house like a living shadow, all facing a single bedroom window. Inside, a child stood on the bed, staring back. The audio picked up her voice, soft, curious. "What did you learn?" The birds answered, in unison. "We learned your voice." After that, officials advised keeping blinds closed at night. Avoid direct interaction. Do not respond to unusual sounds. The advisory was quiet, no national alert, just suggestions. The birds began arriving earlier each evening, perching before sunset, settling in place, waiting, as if anticipating something. Then came the first warm night of spring. Windows opened across neighborhoods, fresh air drifting through rooms. For the first time in weeks, the birds did not sing. They were silent, completely, not a single chirp. People relaxed. Maybe it was over. Maybe whatever had been happening had passed. At 1:42 a.m., phones across several states lit up, not with emergency alerts, with voice memos sent from unknown numbers. No caller ID, no location. Each message was less than 10 seconds long. Each one was a recording of the recipient's own voice, speaking in their sleep. The birds no longer sing at night, not audibly. They sit on rooftops, on window frames, on power lines, facing inward, still. During the day, they behave normally. They fly, they chirp, they scatter when approached. But if you watch long enough, you'll notice something. They don't blink when they're looking at you, not even once. And sometimes, when a room is quiet and no one else is speaking, you might hear it from outside the glass, soft, perfectly timed, Your voice, repeating the last thing you said, waiting for you to answer.
The blackout started at 6:17 p.m. No warning, no flicker. One moment the house was warm and lit, the next silent and dark, like someone had reached into the town and turned it off with 2 fingers. Outside, snow fell straight down. No wind, no sound. I checked my phone. No signal, no data. Just the batteries slowly ticking down. That's when the radio turned on. I didn't touch it. It sat on the kitchen counter, an old emergency radio we'd bought years ago and never really used. The dial glowed faint orange, the only light in the room. Static, low, steady. Then a voice, clear, too clear for a storm like this. "Good evening," the man said calmly. "If you can hear this broadcast, remain inside." His voice sounded tired, not rushed, not afraid, like this wasn't his first time saying it. I stood there, listening. "This is a winter safety transmission," he continued. "Power outages are common tonight. Stay warm, lock your doors, do not respond to voices outside your home." The static crackled softly underneath his words. Then he paused and said a name. "Daniel Mercer." My stomach tightened. That was my neighbor. "Daniel Mercer," the voice repeated. "Time, 6:31 p.m. The radio clicked once, like someone tapping a microphone. 1 minute. I don't know why I went to the window. I told myself I was just checking the street, just looking. Daniel's house sat across from mine, dark like everything else. Then the front door opened. Daniel stepped out. No coat, no hat, just jeans and a sweater, like he'd been called out for something quick. He stood on the porch, looking confused. Then he walked into the snow and didn't stop. I watched him until the white swallowed him. The radio crackled again. "Thank you," the voice said quietly. Then another name. I turned the volume down. My hands were shaking. "I think this has to be a coincidence," I whispered to the empty house. "Just a coincidence." The radio didn't respond. It didn't need to. The next name was a woman 3 houses down. Then a teenager from the corner lot. Each time the same pattern. Name, time, 1 minute. Each time a door opened. Each time someone stepped into the cold. Each time they vanished into the snow. I stopped looking out the window. I locked my doors, checked them twice. The radio kept going. Names echoed through the kitchen like a slow roll call. Some I recognized, some I didn't. But every time after the minute passed, the street felt emptier, quieter. I unplugged the radio. The voice continued. The sound came from inside the speaker anyway. At 7:02 p.m., the voice changed tone, less calm, more careful. "If you hear your name, do not assume this message is for you." I laughed out loud, a short, broken sound. "Then who is it for?" I asked. The radio answered immediately. "For the version of you that can still go outside." I backed away from the counter. The static grew louder. The orange glow brightened slightly. "Some of you are resisting. That's expected. Fear delays the process." Process. I hated that word.
Another name. Then another. The gaps between them grew shorter. 30 seconds. 20. I could hear doors opening farther away, footsteps crunching in snow. No voices, no shouting, just movement. Then the radio said my name, perfectly, clearly, like the man was standing right beside me. Time, 7:14 p.m. 1 minute. My legs felt hollow. I pressed my back against the wall and slid down until I was sitting on the cold tile floor. "No," I whispered. "You've got the wrong person." The static hissed softly. "We never do," the voice replied. I covered my ears.
The radio kept talking. "Please prepare," it said. "The cold is already aware of you." I don't know how much time passed. Seconds felt thick, heavy. Then, a knock. Not loud, not urgent. One slow, polite tap on the front door. I froze. The radio spoke again. "Do not answer that," the voice said gently. "That one is early." Early? For what? The knock came again, closer this time, as if the door itself were shrinking. I crawled toward the hallway, heart slamming in my chest. The radio crackled sharply. "Correction," the voice said. "You are late." The temperature dropped. I could feel it in my lungs. Every breath stung. Frost crept along the inside of the windows, crawling inward like something alive. The radio said my name again, louder, closer. "Time," the voice announced. The knock came a third time, this time from inside the house. I don't remember standing up. I remember being at the door, my hand on the knob, ice forming along the metal. The radio whispered, "Thank you for listening." The power came back at 7:23 p.m. Lights, heat, silence. The radio was off. The street outside was empty. No footprints, no doors open, just untouched snow. They never found the missing people. Officially, they were listed as lost in the storm. Unofficially, no one talks about that night. Except sometimes during blackouts, when a radio finds a station it shouldn't, and a calm voice begins to read names, slowly, patiently, waiting for someone to listen.